In the remote expanse of the universe, the lush, uncharted jungles of planet Illyria hid secrets beneath its emerald canopy. Jack Carter, an ex-military officer turned rogue explorer, had ventured into these alien woods seeking relics and remnants of ancient civilizations. What he found instead would forever alter the trajectory of his solitary existence. As dusk fell, weaving shadows with the last golden streaks of Illyria's twin suns, an unnatural glow and a plume of dark smoke caught Jack's eye. He adjusted the straps on his gear and approached the site with cautious steps, his hand never straying far from the blaster holstered at his side. The air was thick with the acrid scent of burning electronics and metal, the clear signs of a spacecraft crash. The wreckage was unlike any design Jack had seen before, its contours smooth and iridescent, reflecting the fading light with a spectrum of colors that seemed to dance on the surface. His translator device, clipped to his ear, crackled to life with static before catching fragments of a desperate plea for help, the language not quite human but close enough for the software to make a hurried translation. As he climbed over a twisted segment of the hull, Jack peered inside the craft. The interior was bathed in a soft blue light. Amidst the chaos of shattered panels and sparking wires, he found two figures, an adult and a child. They were both distinctly non-human, their skin translucent and tinged with a soft glow that seemed to pulse with their life force. The adult, a female based on the soft contours of her face and body, was pinned under a heavy beam, her eyes filled with pain and fear as she clutched a young girl to her chest. "Hang on, I'm going to get you out of here," Jack called out as he approached, setting his backpack down with a thud. He assessed the beam and, after a brief struggle, managed to lift it just enough to free the woman. She was light, her body frail compared to human standards, and Jack carefully carried her out of the wreckage, with the little girl following closely, her hand gripping the tail of his jacket. Once clear of the immediate danger, Jack set the woman down gently on the grass outside and turned his attention to the girl. She was staring at him with wide, bioluminescent eyes that shimmered with a kaleidoscope of colors. Despite the terror of their situation, there was a curiosity in her gaze, unmarred by the chaos around them. "My name is Jack," he introduced himself, offering a smile that he hoped appeared reassuring. "I'm going to help you and your mother. What's your name?" "Lenny," she whispered, her voice musical and light, like the chime of bells. "And my mama, Elira." Jack nodded, turning back to assess Elira's injuries. His medkit was well-stocked, prepared for all manner of off-world contingencies. He administered first aid with practiced ease, stabilizing Elira enough to manage her pain and prevent any further deterioration of her condition. "We need to move to a safer place," Jack explained as he packed up his gear. "Can you walk, Lenny?" "Yes," she said, her voice gaining strength. She moved to her mother's side, taking Elira's hand gently. With Elira supported between them, they made their way slowly through the thick underbrush back towards Jack's camp. The jungle was alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, a symphony of alien calls that underscored the surreal reality of his unexpected mission. By the time they reached his ship, a small, sturdy vessel hidden among the towering ferns, night had enveloped Illyria completely. Jack helped Elira into the med bay and settled her in, while Lenny watched every move with an unwavering gaze. "You're safe now," Jack assured them as he began the ship's takeoff sequence. The engines hummed to life, a comforting sound against the backdrop of an alien night. As the ship ascended, leaving the jungle and its dangers behind, Jack caught Lenny's gaze in the rearview screen. Her eyes reflected a mix of gratitude and something deeper, a nascent bond forged in the fires of rescue, a bond that, unbeknownst to Jack, would soon ask of him a role he had never imagined playing. As Jack's ship cruised through the quiet expanse of space away from Illyria, the small med bay became a sanctuary of healing and whispered secrets. Elira, lying on the med bed, her translucent skin gradually regaining its luminescent sheen, watched Jack move about with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Her daughter, Lenny, sat by her side, holding her hand, their bioluminescent glow softly pulsing in sync with each other's emotions. Jack had seen many things in his travels across the cosmos, but nothing quite like the delicate complexity of Elira's physiology. His medkit was equipped with advanced human and alien medical tools, a collection amassed from various interstellar outposts and modified for his solo expeditions. He carefully applied regenerative gels and nanite injections that worked to repair tissue at a cellular level, marveling at the way Elira's body responded almost harmoniously to the treatment. "I've stabilized the major injuries," Jack informed them, pulling down his medical visor. "You're lucky. A few hours later, and I might not have been able to do much. You should recover fully with some rest." Elira's voice was a soft whisper, tinged with her species' characteristic melodic quality. "Thank you, Jack. You saved us. But why? Why help strangers from another world?" Jack paused, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Out here, in the vastness of space, we're all a little bit of strangers, aren't we? Besides, no one should be left alone and hurt, not if I can help it." As the days passed, the small confines of the ship felt less like metal walls and more like a home with the presence of Elira and Lenny. They shared meals together, the ship's auto-cook adapting to produce dishes that were a blend of human and Arcturian preferences. Lenny was quick to express her delight or distaste, making faces that could only be described as universally childlike. During their shared meals, Elira began to open up about their past. She spoke of her home planet, Arcturus, a world of vast oceans and floating cities, where bioluminescence was as common as sunlight. But beneath its beauty lay deep divisions. Elira had been a vocal advocate for interspecies cooperation, which had angered the more isolationist factions of their society. "We were fleeing from a faction that sees outsiders as threats, not as friends or potential allies," Elira explained, her voice growing colder. "They attempted to silence us permanently. Our only choice was to escape, to find refuge among the stars." Lenny, listening intently, added in her clear, high-pitched voice, "Mama speaks for peace. She says understanding is better than fear." Jack nodded, impressed by the wisdom in Lenny's words, her youthful innocence untouched by the harshness of her experiences. He decided to teach them more about human cultures and history, hoping to provide them with a broader understanding of the universe. One evening, as they all looked out at the stars from the observation deck, Jack set up a small projector to show images of Earth and other planets where humans had made their homes. Lenny was fascinated, asking countless questions about each picture, her curiosity insatiable. "What about you, Jack? Why do you travel alone?" Elira asked, her tone mixed with curiosity and a hint of concern. Jack leaned back, his eyes tracing the starlit blackness outside. "I guess I'm looking for something," he admitted, his voice soft. "Maybe a place to belong, or maybe just trying to escape the memories of where I once belonged. Out here, I'm free to choose my path, to see things most never will." As the projector flicked through images of distant galaxies and alien landscapes, Jack, Elira, and Lenny shared a moment of quiet understanding, their disparate paths intertwined by fate and the vast, open universe. Jack realized that this unexpected journey with Elira and Lenny was more than a rescue mission. It was a journey towards mutual understanding and, perhaps, a new definition of family. As the small ship orbited Illyria, Jack plotted a course to what he hoped would be a safer sector of space. Despite the peacefulness that had begun to settle among them, Jack was keenly aware of the dangers still lurking. Elira had explained the tenacity of the faction that opposed her, and it was only a matter of time before they resumed their hunt. The calm of the night's cycle was broken by sudden alarms. The ship's sensors had picked up an incoming craft, its trajectory aggressive and its intentions undoubtedly hostile. Jack's hands moved with practiced ease across the control panel, his eyes scanning the data streaming in. "They've found us," Jack muttered under his breath. Elira, who had been teaching Lenny a simple game using the ship's holographic interface, looked up, her face clouded with worry. "What do we do?" Elira asked, her voice steady despite the fear that flickered in her luminescent eyes. "We hide," Jack replied, his decision made in an instant. He steered the ship towards a nearby asteroid field. A dangerous maneuver, but their best chance at evasion. Hold on to something. This is going to get rough. As they approached the field, the sheer size and number of asteroids made the danger painfully apparent. Jack navigated with a blend of daring and precision, his eyes never leaving the viewport. Behind him, Elira held Lenny close, whispering reassurances. The enemy ship, larger and more heavily armed, followed them into the asteroid field. Its pilot, however, was less adept at maneuvering through the chaotic tumbling of rocks. Jack watched as the pursuing ship struggled, its hull scraping against larger asteroids, slowing it down but not deterring its advance. "Jack, can we help?" Elira asked, her voice urgent over the sound of straining engines and clanging rocks. "Yes. Get to the secondary control panel. I need you to help me navigate. Lenny, stay put and keep your eyes on the sensors. Tell us if anything big comes our way." Lenny nodded, her small face set in a determined frown as she turned to the sensor array. Elira, meanwhile, strapped herself into the seat next to Jack and quickly adapted to her role. Together, they danced the ship through the asteroids, each movement bringing them narrowly close to catastrophic impacts. For hours, the chase continued, the asteroids offering the only respite from the pursuing enemy. Eventually, the enemy ship, its hull battered and navigation systems likely as strained as their own, began to fall back. The relentless barrage of obstacles proved too much, and with a final risky maneuver that Jack executed with Elira's help, they watched as the pursuer was forced to retreat, damaged and unable to continue the chase. As the threat of immediate pursuit faded, Jack allowed himself a brief sigh of relief, his gaze meeting Elira's. There was a new respect there, a deeper bond forged in the heat of shared danger. "We need to find a safe place to make repairs and plan our next move," Jack said, his voice weary but calm. "We can't keep running forever." Elira nodded, her hand reaching out to squeeze his arm. "Thank you, Jack, for everything." The ship limped away from the asteroid field, its hull scarred and systems in need of repair. Jack set a course for a nearby space station, known for its neutrality and the discretion of its operators. It was a haven for those who wished to avoid the prying eyes of more authoritative powers. As they traveled, Jack taught Elira more about ship operations, turning their escape into a learning experience. Lenny listened intently, absorbing every word and asking questions that showed her quick mind. The station loomed ahead, a sprawling mass of docks and habitats against a backdrop of stars. It was a place where many stories intersected, and for Jack, Elira, and Lenny, it was the next stage of a journey that had brought them unexpectedly together. They prepared to dock, unaware of the new challenges and new alliances that awaited them. The space station was a bustling hub of activity, its docks always humming with the arrival and departure of ships from every corner of the galaxy. As Jack's ship approached, the scars of their recent escape visible on its hull, he felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. This place could offer them a chance to breathe and regroup, but it also brought new risks, hidden eyes, hidden agendas. After docking, Jack led Elira and Lenny through the maze of the station's corridors. The diversity of its inhabitants was on full display. Creatures of all shapes and sizes moved about, some in haste, others leisurely. Lenny's eyes were wide with wonder at the sight of so many different beings, her previous encounters limited to her own kind and now humans. Jack's first stop was at a discreet repair shop known for its quality work and silence about its clients. He negotiated repairs and upgrades for the ship, using a mix of hard currency and bartered information from his travels. Elira watched him, learning how he navigated these complex social and economic exchanges. "Why do people trust you so quickly?" she asked once they were out of earshot of the shop owner. Jack chuckled. "Trust is a funny thing out here. It's less about personal feelings and more about reputation and necessity. I help them, they help me. Plus, I make sure to know something valuable to everyone I deal with." As the ship was being repaired, Jack decided it was a good time to train Elira and Linny in more than just space navigation. Using a secluded section of the station, he began teaching them basic self-defense and tactics. Elira was a quick study, her movements graceful yet powerful. Linny, too, showed an eagerness to learn, mimicking her mother's moves with a child's enthusiasm. One day, while returning from a training session, they encountered a group of rough-looking individuals. Jack recognized the insignias on their clothes, bounty hunters, likely looking for an easy score. His hand subtly rested on his blaster, ready. "Jack, who are they?" Linny's voice was a mix of curiosity and concern. "Trouble," Jack murmured, steering them into a crowded market area to lose their potential tail. "Let's keep moving." Using the crowd as cover, they managed to evade the bounty hunters. Jack knew this was a temporary reprieve. "They're probably not here for us specifically," he explained later in the safety of their temporary quarters. "But bounty hunters are always a complication. We need to be more cautious." Their time at the station was not all evasion and tension. During moments of downtime, Jack took Linny on explorations of the station's vast public areas, filled with vendors selling exotic goods from across the galaxies. Linny was particularly fascinated by a stall selling luminescent plants that reminded her of her home. The station's cultural festival provided a perfect cover for their next move. With the station distracted by celebrations, lights, and music, Jack planned their departure. They moved discreetly, blending in with the crowd, their faces partially obscured by festive masks. As they slipped back to the dock where their ship was now fully repaired and upgraded, Jack felt a twinge of sadness at leaving the vibrant life of the station. But the journey ahead was necessary, their path forward needing to be as unpredictable and hidden as the stars themselves. With Elira and Linny by his side, Jack initiated the launch sequence, the ship's engines humming a promise of new beginnings. As the station receded into the distance, lit by the colorful explosions of fireworks, Jack, Elira, and Linny watched from the viewport, their reflections mingling with the light display outside, a temporary spectacle in the vast canvas of space. The relative safety of space allowed Jack, Elira, and Linny some time to consider their next moves. Jack knew from experience that merely running was a temporary solution. They needed a plan that addressed the root of their troubles. As they traveled through the star-studded quiet of the cosmos, Jack shared his thoughts with Elira and Linny. "We need allies," Jack began, his eyes scanning the star charts for potential haven. "Somewhere we can settle, at least for a while, to gather resources and maybe make some friends." Elira nodded, her face serious. "You mean a place where my people's enemies won't easily find us?" "Exactly," Jack confirmed. "I know of a few planets that are known for their neutrality. They don't take kindly to outside conflicts, which makes them perfect for laying low and preparing. Their choice was a small, remote planet known as Calypso 3, located in a less-traveled sector of the galaxy. Its government was fiercely independent, known for offering asylum to those who could contribute to their society. Jack had once helped a Calypsoan diplomat during a skirmish. He hoped that old favor would buy them some goodwill. As their ship entered Calypso 3's orbit, the planet's lush landscapes and sprawling oceans came into view. It was a beautiful world, serene and seemingly untouched by the galaxy's broader conflicts. They landed at a small spaceport on the outskirts of the main settlement, where Jack was greeted by an old contact, Daler, a member of the planet's diplomatic corps. "Jack Carter, as I live and breathe," Daler exclaimed, his broad smile welcoming. "What brings you to Calypso 3 with such distinguished company?" Jack explained their situation in broad strokes, careful not to divulge too much detail. Daler listened intently, nodding in understanding. "You'll find no judgment here, Jack. Calypso 3 remains neutral as always. You and your friends are welcome to stay as long as you need." Grateful for Daler's assistance, they settled into a modest dwelling near the coast. The tranquility of the area was a stark contrast to the constant vigilance of the past weeks. Here, they could breathe easier, the sound of the ocean waves bringing a peace they had not felt in a long time. Jack used this time to solidify their defenses. He and Elira worked together to enhance the security around their new home and trained in combat scenarios. Lenny, ever curious and eager to help, learned to operate the surveillance drones that Jack had set up around the perimeter. Their days fell into a new routine, marked by training sessions in the morning and evenings spent walking along the beach, discussing plans, sharing stories of their respective worlds, and dreaming of a future free from fear. Lenny's laughter, bright and clear, echoed over the waves, a sound that quickly became dear to both Jack and Elira. As weeks turned into months, the makeshift family grew closer. Lenny's calls of daddy to Jack became more frequent and heartfelt. Elira, too, found a measure of solace in Jack's steady presence and the promise of protection he offered. But the peace was always tinged with the knowledge that it could shatter at any moment. Jack received updates from various contacts throughout the galaxy, keeping an ear to the ground for any signs of the faction that pursued them. It was during one of these checks that Jack's worst fears were confirmed. The faction had traced them to Calypso 3. They won't stop, will they? Elira asked one evening, worry creasing her brow as she looked out over the ocean. No, Jack replied, his voice grim. But we'll be ready. We've built something here, and I'll be damned if I let anyone tear it apart. Together, they reviewed their defensive strategies, tightening their security measures and preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Calypso 3 had become more than a hideout. It was a home, and they would defend it with everything they had. The serene days on Calypso 3 came to an abrupt end when the inevitable clash loomed on the horizon. Jack, Elira, and Lenny had prepared as much as they could, but the reality of facing a well-equipped and determined faction was daunting. The quiet before the storm was palpable, each of them aware of what was coming. Jack had reinforced their defenses, installing advanced surveillance and automated defense systems around their home. Elira had taken to training more intensively, honing her combat skills alongside Jack, who had become not only a mentor, but a partner in every sense. Lenny, though young, understood the gravity of their situation and assisted by monitoring the security feeds, her sharp eyes missing nothing. The first sign of the faction's arrival was a subtle one. A slight blip on the radar, a ship entering the atmosphere, trying to slip through the planet's defenses unnoticed. Jack was the first to see it, his heart sinking as he realized that their peaceful life was about to be shattered. "They're here," Jack announced, his voice calm but firm as he gathered Elira and Lenny in their small command center. "Remember everything we planned. We stick together, no matter what." Elira nodded, her expression resolute. "We'll protect our home," she affirmed, Lenny nodding vigorously beside her. The faction's forces landed under the cover of night, their approach masked by the dense foliage surrounding their home. But Jack and Elira were ready. The first wave was met with a barrage of defensive fire, automated turrets springing to life at Jack's command. The attackers were skilled, but Jack's preparations hindered their advance, buying them crucial time. Jack led the counterattack, moving with stealth and precision through the underbrush, Elira at his side. They moved like shadows, striking quickly and retreating before the faction could regroup. It was a style of combat Jack had mastered in his military days. Hit and run, a guerrilla tactic that frustrated their better-equipped enemies. Back at the house, Lenny watched the monitors anxiously, her job to relay information about enemy movements. Left flank, 2 more coming up the ridge. Her voice would crackle over their comms, and Jack and Elira would adjust their position accordingly, anticipating the faction's moves. As dawn broke, the battle reached its peak. The faction, realizing that a straightforward assault was failing, regrouped for a final push. This time, they came with heavier equipment, their intentions clear. They were not holding back. "This is it," Jack said, checking his weapon before looking over at Elira. "Ready? Always," Elira replied, her eyes steely. The final confrontation was brutal. Energy blasts lit up the early morning sky, the sound of combat loud against the otherwise tranquil backdrop of Calypso 3. Jack and Elira fought back to back, their movements synchronized after months of training together. In a pivotal moment, Jack spotted the faction leader advancing, guarded by heavily armed soldiers. Making a split-second decision, he signaled to Elira, and they executed a daring maneuver, circling around to flank the leader. With precise shots, they managed to disable the guards, leaving the leader exposed. Jack confronted the faction leader, his weapon trained on the man. "This ends now," he declared. "Leave this planet and don't come back. We're not running anymore." The leader, seeing the determination in Jack's eyes and the losses his forces had sustained, realized the futility of continuing the fight. With a curt nod, he agreed to withdraw, the remaining forces retreating with him. As the last of the enemy's ships left the atmosphere of Calypso 3, Jack, Elira, and Lenny embraced, relief and joy mingling with the fatigue of the night's efforts. They had defended their home, their family, and their right to peace. In the days that followed, the community on Calypso 3 rallied around them, offering support and admiration for their courage. Jack, Elira, and Lenny continued to strengthen their bonds, the ordeal having brought them even closer together. As they watched another sunset from their home, the sky ablaze of colors reflected in the ocean, Jack felt a profound sense of belonging. Here, with Elira and Lenny by his side, he had found what he had been searching for all along: a family, a purpose, and a home. The universe was vast and full of unknowns. But for Jack, the greatest adventure lay in the hearts of the two he had saved, who had, in turn, saved him.